Hi there, I'm Kat. Let's knit together. Today, we're here at the Convention Center in Baltimore, Maryland for Stitches East.
Here, if you're a knitter or a crocheter, it's the ultimate because you have over 150 classes to choose from. You have 300 booth spaces, about 180 vendors to deal with. You can get the fiber raw, so if you want to spinning wheels, all the way to finished products. And we have, even a weaver here who's done felted coats that are just to die for.
They have it in Northampton. At 2:30, Margaret Radcliffe will be doing a book signing at Susan's Fiber Shop.
What is this? It's rayon. I wonder why it's so soft. Rayon and polyester called Shaggy. I've never seen that one.
My name is Bill Boesch. I'm with a group of people. We've come up with some novel ideas in the past, and this one more recent here has to do with a lighted knitting needle. This all came about because I was working with a friend and neighbor who says, I need something to be able to knit in the car. And I worked up some things for her, with a light on the cap and so forth, and she didn't like that. And I came up with some other ideas that were kind of clunky, actually. And finally resolved it. We got to the point here where we've got a refined, light piece of equipment that is very easy to work with. And we did it as a novelty. And then my wife coerced me into doing something with it. And it was like selling to a junkie, no other words to put it.
We're all addicts, yes.
Yeah, and you're all addicts. I'm finding this out. This is a whole breed of addicts here. So in any case, we were having a lot of fun putting this together. I've got a couple of buddies and their wives who are partners with us. We just started out here a year ago, November, and this is taken off. Our biggest problem is keeping up with it.
I love this bag.
Yes, forever. Yeah. What did you make yours with?
Lamb's Pride worsted.
Lamb's side?
Yeah,
Mine's
how
with
about yours?
patents.
Oh, okay.
I like your color choice.
Well, they were what I had, so I wasn't real sure, but I like it.
They got alchemy yarn. If you recall, the Yarn Harlot talked about alchemy yarn. She said one day we're going to find out that it's radioactive. Look at this color, isn't this incredible? And it's the bamboo yarn. I've got 6 in my hand right now, and he said it's only $14. $14, 40% off. Normally $26. So I'm buying some.
Save the Children started 75 years ago in the United States to help children in Appalachia, specifically Kentucky. We started with hot lunch programs for kids in schools that ultimately the federal government took nationwide. It's now a national program. Right now we're working on a program through January 2nd for knitters to make small caps for babies for our newborn and child survival programs in Malawi and Bangladesh. And so they can knit a cap, you can put a little tag on it and show who knitted it and where it's from. This is a brand new program, and this really started because of the interest of knitters around the world. 2 million babies die within the first 24 hours. Another 2 million die within the first month of life. And something as simple as a knit cap to keep them warm can save their lives. And so when women around America and some men heard about this, they started sending us caps and saying, what can we do? And so this really started because of the interest of knitters around the country.
This is my favorite yarn. It's the Conradt with all of the ribbon yarns that I have. This is my favorite. It knits up really, really pretty, especially when I combined it with like mohair. It was beautiful. It's a tape yarn, really pretty. Hand-dyed wool from the woods. They're hard to find.
Is it that book you wanted to get?
Yeah. So some really beautiful laced patterns. They're going to have a fashion show tomorrow with these designs. Look at that. Isn't that just incredible? Oh, that's just gorgeous. And that's really fine lace, too. Really, really fine.
They didn't have choice like we have today. If you go around this market, you'll see absolutely everything your heart could wish for, but these poor ladies had a lot of white wool.
I started this book about 10 years ago by pure chance. I was a hand spinner and I just liked spinning very fine yarns. So one day I found an old pattern in a junk shop, a Victorian pattern, and I had a look at it and I thought this was interesting, and I spent a few days trying to find out how to write it out because it was a mess. It was complicated, there were a lot of mistakes, but eventually it got knitted. And it was the beginning of an obsession. This sort of developed over several years, and by the time I got to 17 shawls, I thought I really had better make this into a book.
Now this is Mrs. Gogar again. She wasn't very good at giving her patterns attractive names. She called this one a handsome triangular shawl, which isn't a word we'd use nowadays. It's a most fun pattern. You start in the centre of the neck with 4 stitches and you just keep on going, and you can basically stop whenever you want. You could make it down to the ground for a wedding if you wanted. I mean, there's no stopping you, literally. And once you've understood the beginning pattern, it's just quite a gentle rhythm. It just gradually increases as you go along.
Some of the lace patterns that we're familiar with up to now have been quite complicated ones. And I think what I've learnt, which surprised me actually, is that they are not. They are actually made up from very simple patterns which have probably come down from Queen Elizabeth I. That's in the 1600s, 1500s, as stocking patterns.
It's just a shawl. We've built a border on both ends. It's just a square with a border that goes all the way around a frame. Then we've taken the top frame, folded it down, and picked up along the edge of just the inside. Picked up here and done a garter stitch tie, of course with extensions. So you end up with a double ruffle.
The actual shawl patterns we've used are unbelievably simple. It's just yarn over knitted together, or yarn over knit one. So it's not beyond anybody. You could wear it on a wedding dress in cream, or you could put it on an evening dress with black or something. And I don't know, but young people seem to like to wear it wearing it with a t-shirt. So whatever it does for you, really.
The patterns were all written in such weird language that I frankly don't know how they understood. There were no needle sizes, or if there were, they weren't linked to, well, there were needle sizes, but they weren't linked to the patterns. So they never told you what thickness the yarn should be, or what size needles to use. Sometimes they didn't even tell you how many stitches you need to cast on. You just expected to do it, and there was one pattern I decoded because it was in a really unfamiliar style. And when it got to a change in the middle, it said, when you come to the centre pattern, increase as many stitches as you need. But it took me about half a day to work out how many that was.
And this seems to be a top favourite for weddings. At least 4 people have come to me over the last few days and said, I want to knit this for my wedding next year. It's a little cape from 1886, and it's basically a feather and foam pattern, but instead of going straight, it's in 12 panels which get wider towards the bottom, so it falls out.
I've tried to make this book accessible to virtually anybody. I think they could start at the beginning with the Victorian beginners in 1840. And by the time they get to Queen Victoria's death in 1903, I think it was, they should be able to knit some really stupendous circles, because the circular shawls were knitted by the Victorians as well, but on 5 or 6 needles.
Right.
And this is the one that has got, I think, the most history about it. It's fantastic. Weldon's in 1886 had a pattern for a circular 9-pointed star shawl on 5 needles. I can't imagine how they'd have done it. I mean, I would have given up after about the first 5 inches. But you start on 4 needles in the middle, and nowadays we get onto a circular needle ASAP. So there you have the history in a nutshell. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
For anybody to say they can't lit lace, I keep saying to them, what you should do is go out, find a really nice yarn, an exciting yarn that turns you on, in some luxury fibre. Don't go for the cheapest you can find, even if it kills you. And then find a simple pattern, which is actually you think might be a little bit beneath you. And go for that. Because the success at the end of it will be partly the yarn, actually. And when you've achieved it, you'll then think, oh, I can do this is great, I'm going to go on and try something else now. And that's what I'm hoping people will do.